Hello, Mike. Hello, Pranav. How are you?
Hey guys.
Hello guys, I'm fine. How are you?
Good, good, good. We're going to give people a few minutes to join in. Um, this was really odd this morning, and I must say, this is the power of suggestion. And no kidding, I woke up in the middle of the night last night having a nightmare. And I was literally in sweats and woke up. And the dream was, I just told my one of our sales guys the same story. The dream was I was sitting in one of those funky zero gravity chairs, lying up in a very dark room with a screen very close to my face, and I was manually processing invoices. I kid you not. I was literally typing the word accounts payable at accelerate.com, and I was having trouble typing it, and that's what was giving me a lot of a lot of stress, and that's how I woke up. And I was like, I need some time off. I've been thinking about this stuff way too long. It's giving me nightmares, but I must have been thinking about this webinar, so it's hilarious.
Yeah.
I think, Mike, we're about a minute in. We'll give another minute to for folks to join, and then we can start with introductions. Let's go ahead, Mike.
All right, just 1 second here. All right. Hey everybody. Hope everyone is doing well. Thanks for taking a few moments with us to um, see a little bit of insights as to who we are as Accelerate and what our team does. I'm Mike Booker. I'm Senior Director of our Robotic Operations Center. I have Ahmad and Pranav with us, Ahmad being our CEO. He's graciously decided to join our session and provide a little bit of insight from his level of who we are as Accelerate, also down to the end-to-end solution level as where myself and Pranav live on a daily basis. So with that, I'll give Ahmad a few minutes to speak. Thanks, Ahmad.
Hey guys, thank you so much for joining our webinar. Just for those who don't know Accelerate, we are a niche AI and agentic service provider. We've been working on some very interesting projects, especially in the AI and agentic world. Um, our history is about 8 years, 7 years of process automation using all sorts of cutting edge technologies, including RPA, AI, iPaaS, all sorts of integration platforms, third party platforms such as UiPath and Salesforce and MuleSoft and things like that. We're going to be talking a lot about UiPath today, which is a strategic partner of ours. Invoice processing is a problem that function that every business in the world has. Everybody gets an invoice. Everybody has to pay an invoice. That's how we get paid. That's how we pay our vendors. With Mike and Pranav supporting a lot of these things and implementing a lot of these solutions, we thought it would be a good idea to talk about what are we seeing as newer trends, what is the adoption of those newer trends, how is that different from how traditionally people have done it. So with that, I think it'd be good to get into it.
Sure. Thanks. All right. So I think we just went through the welcome and introduction. We'll talk about a couple of challenges. From Pranav, our technical specialist, we'll go through a scenario. We'll bring it back to me, and then we'll talk about a couple of next steps. So again, why are we here? To talk about some of the challenges that we see, at least in this particular example, and what we do to optimize and maintain and operate this particular automation. One of the things that Ahmed mentioned is during our optimization process, what if we can learn, or what if the automation itself, instead of a manual support, could self-learn, right? I think that's pretty important. We've seen a lot of that. Pranav will deep dive that for us. And again, thanks for joining. some of the traditional challenges that we've seen in the past. There's a lot of training effort, right? Also, there's many different invoice structures that come from different external sources, various vendors that the businesses have to take in and day out. And at the end of that, it's usually time consuming, right? It's a little monotonous. It's somewhat of a headache. How can we make this process a bit better for our customers is what we believe in. All right. And with that, I'll let Pranav
Yep.
take over.
Okay, thank you very much, Mike. Hello, everyone. So we'll see how AI-powered UiPath RPA, if we leverage with LLM, how it will help us to reduce the impact, manual impact, and help the business. So we have three steps in it. So first is invoice data extraction. So in automation, so first step is capturing the data or the invoices from multiple sources. So like email attachment, shared folder, or document repository. So UiPath get Outlook mail message activity. I think you have already done that. So which retrieves the invoices from email, while simple directory functions retrieves the files or invoices from local and shared drives. So here we can use multiple file formats such as PDF, PNG. Even we can use the scan images. For scan invoices, we leverage the optical character recognition, that is OCR tools like Google Test Track and Microsoft OCR. So once this data is extracted, we validate that data. We check the file format and identify if are any duplicates. So once it is done, we extract the raw text using the read PDF activities. So this is the initial process. First step, then comes the second step, AI powered self-learning mechanism. So here's the magic happens. So once the data is extracted, it is sent to LLMs. So we know that OpenAI API activities are used to connect UiPath with LLMs using the UiPath HTTP request activities. So once this is processed, it structures the data. So whatever the data is there in the invoice, like vendor name, invoice number, then amount, date. So this all the data is processed and written in the information in the form of structured JSON format. And we, as you know, accuracy is very crucial. So we when once this data is with us, we will validate this data with SAP master records. So we use SAP logon application activity, then navigate to different relevant transaction code and input that data into the required fields using type into or set activities. So to ensure the reliability, we implement the check app activity to correct to see if the fields are correctly filled or not, try catch blocks for error handling, and automated email alerts for quick resolution. With which intelligent invoices processing become faster, more accurate, and scalable, reducing the manual efforts and improving the operational efficiency. Mike, can you go to next slide?
Sure.
Thank you. So this is one of the example of mid-sized business where a business is processing 10,000 invoicing per month. So in this, if we use this AI-powered RPA, so it can cut down the processing cost up to 50% and saving up to significant amount of dollars annually. So no more manual training for new invoices, faster go live for new vendors, high accuracy and low error rates. This will be a game changer for any business that deals with the large amount of invoice processing. Mike, can you go to next slide?
Of course.
So to understand how this self-learning mechanism works, there are three major things that we need to see. One is pattern recognition, then is confidence scoring, and third is continuous improvement. So AI studies previously processed invoice to identify pattern in how the keys such as invoice number, vendor name, and total amount are structured. So different vendors use different formats. But when we use AI learning, it takes the past data and recognize the similarity. So for example, there is total amount in one of the format, and if there is final amount or any other written instead of total amount, the AI will recognize that thing, and self adaptive learning, it will recognize that and process the invoices. Second is continuous learning. AI assigns the confidence score to each extracted field. So if that confidence level is high, it will process the invoice. If the confidence level is below certain threshold, it will flag the system for the human review. So once it goes to the human review, once it comes back from that, it will have self learning and refine the processing for the next processing of invoices. And next is continuous improvement and better accuracy. So AI continuously refines the learning through feedback loop. Each correction made, it updates the knowledge and applies those learning with the similar invoices in future. As the system processes more invoices, it become more precise, reduce the need of human intervention, ultimately benefiting from more faster processing time, fewer errors, and increase the operational efficiency. Next, we will see. Mike, can you go to next slide? So next is the benefit and business benefits and impact on industrial impact. So I will ask Mike to take over this.
Sure. So thanks, Pranav. So a couple of things here, right? What we're seeing is the traditional path versus what happens once we've done the optimization with the LLM. And one particular call out, we're saying LLM, but there are many different use cases out there, whether it be ChatGPT, whether it be Google solution. It's really whatever you're comfortable using, as a business. One particular thing also I do want to call out as being, the maintenance and support lead is the end-to-end perspective of it, right? And once this production is live, there's a few things that we'll go through on the next slide. So exactly the way that we work is, first off, we have our proactive and issue resolution. What that means to us is we're continuously monitoring the solution 24/7, right? And there's particular flags that come up that we can catch. And at that point, we set up our incident management process, or if it's an exception, we set up our exception process and work with the business to handle those exceptions. The next thing is we leverage the LLM capabilities to handle the new invoice formats that come through. A lot of times those new invoice formats will throw lots of exceptions. And again, we work continuously with the business to handle those exceptions and eventually make the model that much more robust. Third, we streamline vendor and onboarding management. We're constantly assessing the template to make sure that it fits your needs according to however you're using it at that point in time. Fourth is where it comes to the KPIs and SLAs. Again, there's multiple types of KPIs and SLAs. There's our ability to support you as a service, and then there's the performance of the automation itself. In this case, I'm talking about the performance of the automation itself. How does it perform over time? And we manage that against the baselines that are constantly resetting as more and more data is produced. Also, as we move to the fifth part in this scenario, and this is again how our support team is specifically structured around, and I mentioned this a few moments ago, around incidents and faults of that particular automation, if there is any. We work alongside of the business. We don't work in the shadows. If there's something that we see through monitoring, through continual improvement, we always funnel that information back to the business so that they can leverage that data to make the automation that much more robust. And we do that real time, which leads me to my last point, right? Continuous optimization of, in this case, the particular automation, right? Again, it's continual improvement, it's data driven, and the feedback is open two-way. So, which leads me to the next slide. So what we've done here, we've kind of brought you on a production journey of this particular process. I want to bring Pranav back because there was a couple of questions that we want to address between myself and Amit. So, Pranav, if you can come back.
Yeah.
So
So,
on
uh,
the
mhm.
on the overall sort of solutioning, I think this it's really important to sort of differentiate between how invoice processing has been done in the past versus how invoice processing is done now. I think there's two different paradigms there, and somebody very interestingly talked about just generally speaking processing of documents, but specifically for invoices. We have been in the past, Pranav talked about OCR, but going away from OCR and just using an LLM to understand it. Um, there is this concept of lexical understanding of a document, which is looking at where sort of things are and the position of things and trying to create a pattern to say where these words appear close to these words or these sort of characteristics of a document identify this type of a data field. A table in the middle of an invoice generally means the line items in the invoice, that type of thing. That's sort of more of a lexical sort of structural understanding of a document, as opposed to how humans read it, which is more of a semantic understanding of a document, reading the document to say what is this document, and then understanding, reading the words on it to actually make meaning of it. We have been really focused, as in technology has really been focused on looking at it more lexically, where it tries to machine learning models try to understand various components of a document and try to make sense out of it. Where we're headed to and what we're seeing now is with LLMs, with large language models, you are now moving into a space where these models are looking at semantic understanding of the documents, where they're looking at what is in this document, what does this look like, and then reading of the actual items and figuring out what it means, which is a very different way of sort of understanding a document and processing a document. Now, is it all there now? Somewhat, but not to the point where you can go straight through processing 100%. But what we're seeing is there are a lot of things that you can do now that are much easier. For instance, with a large language model, I can extract a table of items from an invoice and have it be formatted in a particular way that I'd like, have the line items be um, organized or characterized into certain general ledger accounts or things like that. So those are the type of things that we can do now that we really couldn't do very easily in the past, before the advent of, or forget the advent, but more general, uh, broadly accepted use of LLMs. So I think we've been seeing that with a combination of the previous sort of you know machine learning model, along with a model that uses large language models to um, semantically understand documents, specifically invoices, can be very, very, very effective and actually be more lead to more straight through processing than you had in the past.
Yeah.
How would you say, if you don't mind me asking, how would you say that that's something that we carry over into other similar automations, other similar solutions? Because
That's awesome.
yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. So, what we've been doing in the past year or so is we had been looking at, and interestingly, what large language models and the quote unquote the agentic um, paradigm did for us was we started looking at where we stopped usually with the RPA automations. We would stop and give this objective to the humans to do, and then come back and start doing a lot of the rest of the work. So we actually usually would do out of scope, out of scope, out of scope in a particular process. You say, okay, these three tasks are in scope. This is out of scope because it's too subjective, too unstructured, whatever that is, and then come back to the non-subjective rules-based stuff. What we did in the past year was go look at all that out of scope and see how we can enhance that out of scope and bring that back into scope. That's number one. But now what we're doing is we're now looking at sort of more the agentic model of doing these things. However, we're doing very specific things where we're saying, okay, you want specialized sort of agents to do various parts of the process, whether it be sort of dealing with unstructured data or or somewhat subjective rules. The interesting thing that we're looking at is what you used to like. I think it's still important to say that pick processes that have specific rule sets and defined rule sets. However, there were a lot of things that were subjective in the sense William can also be Bill. Uh, Robert can also be Bob. Bank of America can sometimes be spelled BANA, or sometimes JP Morgan Chase can be written about 15 different ways in terms of J period P period JP Morgan without a space, J space P space Morgan. It was almost very, very difficult to say these are the same things in an RPA world, because the string match wouldn't work, and then you try to do fuzzy matches, and it became very, very tricky. But these are the type of subjective things that you can now give to LLMs to do, and they do a pretty good job at it. The other thing that you could also do is uh, process unstructured data a lot better than you could before. For example, instructions written in a document, or tables, reformatting tables, or sort of understanding data in sort of transposing data from one form to another. These are things that were very difficult to do, but now we're able to do that much more effectively using LLMs and generative AI and agents.
Perfect. Thanks.
Yep.
Pranav,
Yeah.
you said you had something you wanted to bring up?
Yeah, one question for you, Mike. So, how does our approach to supporting invoices processing solution align with our broader commitment to client across our Accelerate solution?
Sure. So I think it's all about a methodology, right? And in this case, typically it's a phased evolution. Not long after go live, once we take over, the first phase of it we've talked about, pretty much repeatedly here, right? There's a learning phase, there's a fault, and then there's also as we learn the process, as the automation itself. Um, those exceptions that are thrown throughout the first phase, that's something that goes into effect where we have human intervention. We're categorizing those exceptions. We're rolling those into whether it be optimizations or back over to our development teams for further larger development. Um, in the second phase, I would say, and this is of a three-part. Now that we've got enough data to start seeing to use it, there's the optimization phase, and then finally, the final phase is where the business is leveraging us to make that automation more robust for its own personal other departments. Right, the expansion phase. It's showing how this use case has transformed their organization, and they're using it to move to other organizations within their own company. So I've always been passionate about support. It's one of those things that if you leverage us correctly, leverage support correctly, it can be a tool to expand and enable your business. And this is just one example of dozens of types and even thousands of different automations that we've been able to touch over the past few years. So again, thanks for that question, Pranav. All
Thank
right,
you.
of course. So we only have a few minutes. I know
I
you've,
think,
you
yeah, there's a very specific question that came in that somebody has asked. Stephen has asked. Stephen, for this is a very common scenario, and there are many techniques that you can use to reduce the training process. Uh, Look, I think a couple of things where you might want to look at using the production data, sending a model out with suboptimal training, and then using the data from production to train the model can be very effective, because you can get a lot of training data very quickly. So in day one, you have 20, 30, 40% straight through processing, and all of a sudden within a month you can have a lot of straight through processing very quickly, because you have a lot of invoices being processed by people in the business that know how to do it, and they're doing it right. The other sort of techniques are to use sort of Gen AI extractors, so that you don't have to actually rely on the model training to extract data, and you might have to change some of your fields to say, okay, we're not going to use a DU sort of machine learning traditional model field, but we're going to use Gen AI extractor. That might be helpful, and might get you better results. Talk to us about it. We've done this many, many, many times. We can possibly help.
Perfect. Cool. I can't see if there's any other questions. Are there any other questions out there that are in the chat?
I don't think we have. Okay, that's good.
No. Yeah.
Cool. Okay. Well, again, this has been enlightening. I appreciate both of you guys' time to enlighten us a little bit. To kind of recap, we talked about a couple of things, right? One, Pranav gave us the technical part of what we see within this particular process. I talked about the maintenance and the operations component of it once the process is live. And then Amin was able to provide some more color and context just from a company standpoint, from an industry standpoint, really, on what he's seeing, on what Accelerate is seeing. And I think between the three of us, hopefully, if you guys have any questions, please feel free to reach out. And if there's nothing else, again, this has been great. Thank you, everyone, for your time. And hopefully we'll get to see each other again on the next webinar.
Thank you very much, everyone. Have a great day.
Thank you. Have a great day.